So we all know the Imperial-Class Star Destroyer, one of the most imposing ships in the Imperial Navy. But it was accompanied by a lot of smaller support ships, and today I want to discuss one of my personal favorite small ships used by the Galactic Empire, the Arquitens-Class Light Cruiser. I'm Colin, and this is Sci-Fi Deep Dive. Remember, if you enjoyed this video, to head down below and hit that subscribe button. So, the Arquitens-Class Light Cruiser is a 325-meter long, well-rounded light cruiser utilized by both the Galactic Republic and the Galactic Empire. It was sporting 4 heavy turbo lasers, 4 quad laser cannons, and 4 concussion missile launchers. On top of this, it could carry a complement of up to 3 TIE fighters. This armament made it a fairly well-rounded ship. Unlike something like a Quasar Fire or a Gazanti, its heavy turbo lasers allowed it to engage other capital ships, while its quad laser cannons made it relatively effective against fighters. As a result of being so well-rounded, we see it used in a wide variety of roles. In the Imperial Navy, we often see them used as escorts or picket ships. But in larger fleets, we also see them used to carry out patrol roles. And even in a few occasions, we see them used as the command ship of a fleet. We see in Rebels that they are clearly capable of operating within a planet's atmosphere, and we also see that when it comes to engagements with other capital ships, the Arquitens can hold its own. While they're often used to support larger ships like Imperial-Class Star Destroyers, the Arquitens' claim to fame was operating on its own. It would often be used to subjugate worlds that simply were not important enough to use an Imperial-Class Star Destroyer. The Empire would end up using these almost like miniature Imperial-Class Star Destroyers. They would often deploy them as the entire force instead of supporting them with other ships. But its history actually predates the Galactic Empire. The Arquitens-Class Light Cruiser was first used by the Galactic Republic. We see them used in a few occasions during the later half of the Clone Wars. During the war, we often see them being used by the Republic Navy to fill escort roles. However, on a few occasions, we see them carry out sort of a fast attack role where they're sent ahead of a fleet of Venators. While it served the Republic valiantly, its real claim to fame would be its service to the Empire. It was one of the few ships from the Republic Navy that the Empire actually held onto. Unlike the Venator and the Consular class, the Arquitens would be used in significant numbers by the Empire. We would often see them deployed to systems that, as I mentioned before, were not important enough to see the use of an Imperial-Class Star Destroyer. And the Arquitens excelled in this role. It was a fairly decent, well-rounded small capital ship, capable of going toe-to-toe with most of the things that the Rebel Alliance were using at that time. Ultimately, it was a pretty even match for something like a Nebulon B. And when it came to things like CR-90 Corellian corvettes, the Arquitens could shred them. And it was significantly cheaper to produce than an Imperial-Class Star Destroyer. So the Arquitens would see action throughout the duration of the Galactic Civil War. However, as the Rebel Alliance grew in strength, the Arquitens became less effective. Larger Rebel ships, mainly the ones of Mon Calamari origin, could easily outgun the smaller Arquitens-Class Light Cruiser. As a result, during the later portions of the war, they were mainly seen as support ships, escorting larger things like Imperial-Class Star Destroyers. They were still, however, useful at engaging smaller Rebel ships like, as I mentioned before, Corellian corvettes and Nebulon Bs. After the Emperor's death at the Battle of Endor, the Empire would continue using Arquitens through to the end of the war. However, it is noted at this time that these ships are starting to become rare. My guess is they stopped producing them when they started seeing more Mon Calamari ships in the Rebel fleets. With the Arquitens outgunned, it kind of makes sense that the Empire would start to ramp down production. And it seems like about 6 to 8 months after the Battle of Endor, they were a relatively rare sight. While we don't know about any at the Battle of Jakku, my assumption is they probably were there. The battle was massive and meant to contain a majority, if not all, of the remaining Imperial forces in the galaxy. However, after the battle, we don't hear much about this ship. It's assumed that no more were produced, and the few that remained were probably torn down with the rest of the Imperial-Class Star Destroyers. But the Arquitens during its service filled this very interesting role in both the Republic and the Imperial military. The smaller ships utilized when a Star Destroyer was simply too much. But if you want to learn more about some of the other ships that helped fill this role, I'll leave a link up here to my video on that. And I want you to let me know down below what you think of the Arquitens. Was it a well-rounded ship, or could it have been improved some way? And lastly, if you enjoyed this video, head down below, hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the bell icon so you get notified when I upload new videos. So for Sci-Fi Deep Dive, I'm Colin, and I will see you next time.